Well, welcome everyone to the very first episode of the Cyber Talent Matrix Live. We're so glad to have you here. This show is all about exploring the workforce side of cybersecurity, the roles, the skills, the strategies, and the stories behind building and sustaining great cyber teams. I'm Jeff Welgan, CEO skillrex, and I'm joined by my amazing colleagues and co-hosts, Dr. Sasha Vanterpool and Will Denman. Together, we're bringing you a mix of data, strategy, and lived experience around what it really takes to solve today's cyber workforce challenges. For this kickoff episode, we'll start by letting you get to know us a little bit better, who we are, what we love about this work, and why we care so much about cyber talent. We'll also introduce two ideas that will be recurring themes throughout the show: the cyber talent matrix and cyber workforce intelligence. So let's get into it and meet the folks behind the mics. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Sasha, to and introduce yourself to the world.
Yes. Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Sasha Vanterpool. My path to cybersecurity is non-traditional. I actually come from a background in higher education and career development. I started in academic advising at technical colleges and then earned my PhD in career and workforce education. And it was actually my dissertation research that focused on transitioning military veterans that I realized how many of them transitioned into cybersecurity as their civilian career. And I thought there was something to that. And it was just about time for me to graduate when I got a job at Cyber Florida, which is the Florida Center of Cybersecurity. It's housed at my alma mater, the University of South Florida, where I was basically the program manager of this cybersecurity workforce development and training program that prioritized underrepresented groups to help them transition into the field, but they prioritize military veterans transitioning into SOC analysts. And over time, after working there, I realized I kind of wanted to make a transition and work directly with the employers to really kind of help strengthen how they actually hire and then grow the people who are working in the field. And that led me to CyberVista, formerly known as, now known as N2K Networks, and has spun off to skillrex. And that's when I started working with Jeff few years ago now, and now we get to consult together with organizations and helping build those skills-based data-driven workforce strategies. So that's a little bit about me. Will, tell us about yourself.
Oh yeah. So my name is Will Denman. I am the analytics program lead here at skillrex. So I usually focus on doing the data science side of all this stuff. Primarily, it goes from data architecture to the science and analytics portion. So a lot on my plate usually, and it's all really, really exciting stuff. I'm a big fan of it. So all this kind of concerning, the various workforce frameworks and measurements that we kind of implement in our work, kind of on the day to day. It's awesome. So I've always been kind of adjacent to the cybersecurity field. When I was a kid, I had a bunch of family members in it, both in the private and public sector. And so, yeah, so I'm a little less seasoned, I'd say, but nonetheless, like I've been working with Jeff and Sasha for a couple of years now, and it's been amazing. So since kind of delving into it, I found, at least for me, the most interesting part is kind of this. I'd say there is kind of a communications gap that we see across like cybersecurity teams, HR, finance, all these different things. And I find that language, like the data, is basically kind of the through line language of all this stuff. And so I find that there's this very kind of neat niche for me where it's all about kind of new problem solving and things of that sort. And so again, with that being said, I'd say, I don't know. I'd say that's probably got to be the most interesting part of this whole deal. So I kind of have a particular interest in LLMs, large language models, deep learning algorithms, semantic analysis, stuff like that, kind of on the side. But
Just
there is a lot of overlap.
all the easy stuff.
Oh yeah, just really, really chill, simple stuff. But I mean, it's a big step up from when I was in college. We would have like simple logistic regression models or k-means clustering algorithms, which are very fun. But I don't know if that means anything to anybody here. But that's kind of what got me into machine learning and kind of the analytics side of things. And it's working here at skillrex and stuff has been kind of an interesting opportunity to grow that skill set and stuff. So
Yeah, Sasha, I think we might have missed a little bit of like what drives your passion for it. Like why do you like this. I'm assuming you like this stuff.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it purely goes down to like making sense of all of these different like just points of data, right? It's
Yeah.
all about reducing that complexity into, it's the whole like, oh, we're taking unstructured data and making it into actionable business insights, right? But it's really cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
What was it initially like, and sometimes it's just very simple as that, right? Like I don't know, for a while, I was really big into like finance and Excel, and it was purely because I liked all the numbers working out, right? It's like very, very simple reason,
Yeah.
but it's one of the biggest drivers for this.
Love it. Love
I
it.
do
Yeah.
love the multimodality of this kind of, when we talk about like making an upskilling initiative or an awareness program or something like that, you're working between cybersecurity needs, you're working between budget constraints, labor market trends, like all of these different points of data. And it's like, we need those to kind of inform that strategy. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, love
Yeah,
it.
and
Yeah.
what
So,
like where's your passion? What drives you here for this space?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely do agree with Will. Getting my PhD and grad school and stuff like that, I definitely loved data as well. Focus a little bit more on the qualitative stuff, but I think the data really does tell a story. And I think for me, it's kind of just helping people make clarity out of the frustration of really trying to understand of like from a leadership level, who do they have working for them? What do they need? How can they grow their talent in an inclusive and intentional way? I think that, back from my advising days and, just the studies that I did with my graduate school, I think just career navigation can be just very confusing, and being able to help people with that at the leadership level, and then being able to give managers tools that are going to help their employees not only feel supported, but really help navigate those career pathways is something that I'm just kind of really passionate about, because we're just helping people at the end of the day, but being able to do it through data is just really cool.
Yeah, I love it. My pathway here was similar in the it's untraditional. I think actually untraditional is the traditional.
For
Everybody I've
cyber,
talked
for
to
sure.
it's a
the
winding
traditional
path.
path into cyber. Um, like 90% of the people I talk to about their career path here is that story. But mine actually, I was in the Navy. I was enlisted. I was an intelligence specialist and search and rescue swimmer, and I really liked solving the intelligence, picture, connecting dots again to create stories, to tell a narrative around what's happening. So after my time in the military, I went ahead and went to school, got my master's degree in applied intelligence, and then started supporting the intelligence community as a civilian, as a contractor, mostly on the counterterrorism side. And then I had this opportunity, 2010, to switch into the cybers. So I joined Booz Allen Hamilton, did cyber threat intelligence, looking mostly at national strategy and doctrine for foreign nations. And so my background's not technical either, but I think it shows, just how wide range of applicability and different skill sets there are for the cyber profession writ large. So yeah, I did that for a number of years, and then had an opportunity to jump over to Cyber Vista, following my boss from Booz Allen, and helping to build out, cyber training programs, mostly focused at first with boards and executives, and then as my hats kind of piled on there, overseeing certification, prep and training programs, role based training, and then into this foray that we call cyber workforce intelligence, which we've been doing since. So I like it personally. My favorite thing about my job, and this is true with like any of the jobs I've held in the past, is just for me personally, I really like building and innovating and creating solutions for complex things.
Yeah.
So whether it's like building scrappy teams or building a whole new capability that's focused on a problem set, like I find that to be fun. And it's true in my personal life too. I like to like create something with my hands, and then like, cool, I've just built a shelf for my wall, like to see a finished project or in the process of building something is beautiful. So I take a lot of passion with that. So I love that.
No, that's real. There's sometimes where it'll be like at night or something. You're like, Will, I have this idea for something, and then we all like we're all gonna talk about it tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah.
And we come in and you're just like, okay, guys, here's the deal, right? And oh my gosh, yeah, no, it's
Yeah, I
just
love when the ideas spark and you get to come into the Monday meeting, our Monday meeting
oh
or
yeah.
Thursday
Yeah.
meeting, Honestly, that's kind of what drove us to do this show. I think,
Mm.
selfishly, in a lot of my other jobs, I always hated team meetings. I mean, a lot of time with teams. It's not
Yeah.
individuals, just but it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, when you're like calendar is just full of meetings and a bunch of internal meetings, it gets a little bit, overwhelming.
Yeah.
But with skillrex, I'm always excited to come to our meetings because we have these kinds of conversations. So that's really the I think maybe the starting spark behind, like, let's do this show, Cyber Talent
Um,
Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Was to kind of bring our team meeting,
to life.
it's all the client detail stuff, but like, yeah, out here in the world, and not everybody else join us for this because it's fun. I think kind of helps explain what is the cyber talent matrix. And,
Mhm.
so I think we owe our audience, because that's one of the things we're supposed to talk about today, is what
Mhm.
is the cyber talent matrix. From a show perspective, right? This is what we're here for. It's not scripted, and we'll have some pieces that we want to cover, in each of these episodes for sure. But it is a conversation. It is an extension of our brainstorming that happens every single week. And it gives
Mhm.
us an opportunity and a platform to talk about all these pieces of the cyber workforce ecosystem. And you'll know what we mean more about that as we kind of continue on with these episodes. So, number one, it's a show. Cyber Talent Matrix is this show live. We hope to continue to do it at some regular cadence for everyone. But it's also a perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just kind of like share this perspective a little bit here. Hopefully, this works for everybody. Okay, great. So I think one of the things that we realized in doing this work for a couple of years is that there is this larger workforce ecosystem that exists. And I think oftentimes most organizations kind of live in one little silo of it, or the people who run certain departments, right? All live in their departmental silos.
Mhm.
And what we started to see over the last couple of years is just how interconnected this ecosystem is. And with that, the need to start connecting those dots together so we can create a more refined picture of what is happening with the workforce, and what actions do you as business leaders or managers or as enterprises need to do to kind of address your challenges with the workforce. So um, I think uh, that part of interconnectedness is kind of what we're really driving with the cyber talent matrix.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a baseball team. There's all these players on a field. They all have certain roles. They have to work together to actually win games. And what we're seeing is that a lot of people are just playing the game by themselves, or only working with a couple of other players on the field. And we need to figure out how to get the entire team to work together as an entire team to win World Series, right? And lastly, the third part of it is the cyber talents matrix is a model. It's a model we've developed, we're creating, or refining, that is a maturity model. So we can look across these various innings, if you want to call it there, talent acquisition, job architecture, role analysis, et cetera, to understand how mature organizations are in the variety of actions and initiatives or programs that kind of fall underneath each of these 9 areas. So, with those innings or those areas, we talk about things like sensors. We talk about treatments that are happening. We talk about what are the yields of those treatments, and overall, what's the sustainability of programs as we look across the entire workforce. So, um, that's kind of the cyber talent matrix in a nutshell. I'd love to pass it over to you, Sasha, just to kind of like get your perspective on cyber talent matrix, and like anything you find interesting about it.
Yeah. So no, I think that was a good kind of overview and explanation. But I think that kind of alluded to it a little bit before is that I think one of my favorite parts about this work that we're doing, and we're able to do it through the cyber talent matrix, is really helping organizations get honest about where they're strong, where they're vulnerable, and then what can actually be done about it. And I think to your point, instead of everything being siloed off together, this helps kind of serve as a data that we can use kind of like as a translation, a taxonomy, if you will, because we're able to help speak to what cyber leaders care about, what HR cares about, what the learning and development or the training department, however they're referred to as, care about, and being able to kind of serve as that. Um, a liaison between these different departments by it being able to show the different data that come from these different innings, if you will, going back to the baseball analogy there. But I think it's you can have industry frameworks, and we'll definitely talk about that as well. And you have job descriptions, and you have what you intend your workforce to be, but being able to really get a clear picture of where they are actually at, what those expectations are, comparing performance to expectations, and then being able to say, like, this is the data that's going to help you target that and look at that skills gap, and making sure that you're just not focusing on the technical side, and that there's other ways to develop, these cyber teams and really give them, again, that support and that data to help them get clear pathways on how they can get from point A to point B, whether that's a lateral move or progressing, or being able to just make sure that the different teams in the department work together. So I think it's really kind of helping, like kind of turning on the light in a cluttered room, and just helps you kind of navigate, gives you a sense of direction that I feel that I've personally seen the confusion on both ends. Those people who are trying to transition into cyber and get hired, it's the wild, wild west, and it's very confusing. And we all talked about so many times that, the shortage gap and getting hired is one thing, but remembering that we're taking care of those people who are working in the field, and we want to make sure that we are growing them, supporting them, retaining them, all that stuff. These are the tools that we're able to support organizations to do that.
Love it.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of this, again, we talk about the unconventional way that like most of us kind of arrive to this point, right? Where we are wearing a lot of hats, right?
Mhm.
And it's very like there's this kind of necessity to be a little bit of a generalist, right? And so not only are we going to be working through cybersecurity needs, but also the needs of HR. What are the budgetary constraints, things like
Mhm.
that. Could you put the matrix back up? Because like it's
Yeah.
yeah. We'll do some on the fly editing here. But what was it? Like what I really like about it, and again, this is something that will kind of continue to unfold as we continue the show. But with each of these, right? Because initially we had it organized as like we kind of had this baseball analogy, allegory. I forget. It starts
And
with an A. Yeah. Okay, something like that. Something like that. Well, we had it going from first to ninth, right? And I think that's good, right? Having those in sequence, right? But at the same time, I like looking at it almost like it is a maturity model, but it's also kind of
Mhm.
an agile model, right?
Mhm.
So there's going to be problem areas that people are going to have, right? How do we appropriately identify skills gaps? Maybe
Mhm.
that's the big thing. It's not about actually acquiring the talent, but it's
Mhm.
about like now we have a bunch of talent on board. How do we actually bridge the gap? Because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? We're trying to make sure that our technical chops are still aligned with our competitors and stuff. Um, and so it's like, okay, we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on, this particular thing, right? We don't have to do it in sequence if we don't necessarily want to, right? There is that kind of flexibility. Because again, like I'm looking at this visualization here, right? And, initially it was like, this is one, this is two, this is three. But now you could kind of look at these and it's like, well, which one do you kind of maybe struggle with the most or, whatever, right? And not only that, but with these, you will have a lot of overlap, right? Skill gap analysis is going to feed into talent acquisition. That
Mhm.
feeds into job architecture,
Mhm.
skill inventories, right? All of those things. And so I really appreciate that kind of nature because there's always going to be different parts that need to be attacked, I guess, right? There's always going to be different problems.
Sure.
Um, and so stuff like that, I really like. I kind of
Yeah.
like framing it as an agile model. And for all my software development
This is
folks.
super important too. Like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
often say, like business leaders need to understand what levers to pull, right? And
Mhm.
levers, when you pull a lever across this matrix, right? You can do it for good or inadvertently bad, right? So, you know, really good example is job descriptions. If you have a
Mhm.
bad job description and you continue to pull the lever on not updating that job description to reflect really what the job role is expected to do, then you're going to have poor candidates come through, or you're going to have take a really long time for time to hire a new candidate because you're getting mismatches all the time. But if you do like a job role analysis and fully understand that, and you pull that lever, and then in turn pull an update on the job description lever, now you're making some improvements to your
Yeah.
pre-efficiencies across the entire program. There's a across this entire matrix, everything's interconnected. that's kind of where we come in. And the idea of this second point that we're really showcasing in the show is cyber workforce intelligence, right? Creating a picture out of chaos is
Yeah.
essentially. I'm Intel by trade, so I'm used to like understanding that there are several sources for information
Mhm.
and pull those together, correlate information, and make a sense of it all. And Will, kind of giving the mic back to you because I interrupted you.
Oh, no,
Um,
you're chilling. You're chilling.
my,
You're chilling.
my, my mandate to you: let's create the saber metrics. If we're going back to the baseball theme,
Hmm.
or cyber workforce. Like, what is our version of sabermetrics as we look at all the metrics that we can kind of analyze, from time to hire to skill gap data to culture retention metrics, so we can talk about it in one common math way, so we get that clarity in the picture. So over to you again to
Oh,
math
yeah,
out.
yeah. Well, so I think there's quite a few things, because again, the with sabermetrics, right? It's very much I believe, I want to make sure I got my memory right. It was very much talking about the on base runs, right? And talking about that's the big thing, that's the big key. Like, if anybody here's seen Moneyball, like that was the whole deal. Is like we're hitting those on base runs, and that's what's gonna land us a kind of, I'd say we get more bang for our buck, right? Our ROI is huge, right? There's
Yeah.
the buzzword, right? Um, so I will say though, with cybersecurity, it's in some ways a little more nebulous, right? There's so many different levers to pull, and that's again, that's something that we kind of do, is like, okay, which levers do we need to pull? A lot of it is just, hey, do we even have data here, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of this kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, we're getting very cybersecurity, like the actual practice of like log collection, things like that, and we can kind of look at number of incidents or whatnot, but we're not taking a look at skills gaps. We're not taking a look at stuff that's admittedly more subjective, and so it's even just the act of collecting the data itself that leads a lot of the opportunities, right?
Mhm.
So when we look at, especially even it comes down to ethical decision making, right? Like, you actually need the data, the empirical evidence to make stuff. You can't just go based off vibes, right? Like that's just like, I don't know, it's something like that. But and not only that, but it's kind of being able to keep your ear to very particular things, right? So with our technical eighth inning, or workforce analytics and market intelligence, right? It's like, you could have fairly decent, like, there's not a lot of skills gaps. We're
Mhm.
doing pretty decent in job acquisition, or talent acquisition, I should say. But at the same time, maybe recruiters are coming up to people and going, hey, we have greater compensation for these things, right? So like, I know cloud security is kind of all the buzz, right? I'm thinking of the ISC2 sort of study that came out a little while back. But it's like cloud security and soft skills are the big ones, right? And so there may be a salary premium on cloud security, right? And something like that, if you're not aware of it, it could lead to, people basically coming in and saying, hey, I could give a better offer, right? So stuff like that, I find very interesting. So it's not even just the, like, what is the golden ticket metric
Yeah.
here, but in fact, like, we just need sensors. We need all that good stuff, right? So I think with the cyber workforce intelligence, I think that's a big thing. I don't want to keep, I will monologue. I will monologue. Uh, Feel free to weigh in, but I think that's where a lot of the cyber workforce intelligence comes in, is all those sensors and stuff like that. So
Yeah, correlating like, churn rates on your SOC team, like how
Mm.
quickly that team is, your attrition on that,
Mhm.
with skill gap data, with time to hire data. Like, those are the hard challenges that we want to provide some clarity on, because
Yeah.
Mhm.
recruiters are tracking their time to fill positions, and that's happening in the HR department just fine. But what we see is that data over there doesn't necessarily work its way back over to the hiring manager all the
Mhm.
time. They might get bits and pieces of it through their, weekly update, as they're kind of trying to fill a position. But um, then there's this other piece from like well, what skills are missing, right? And are people leaving because it's burnout for that
Yeah.
particular team, or is it because they don't have the skills, or that they are getting the skills, and as soon as they get those skills, they're jumping over to another team? All those things happen. But we want to be able to kind of better position organizations to prepare for those situations and upskill and transition people where they need to be transitioned. So with that, Sasha, I'd love for you to kind of weigh in on this concept of cyber workforce intelligence, maybe even some real world examples of stuff that we've done where, we've seen some success on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you guys both brought up really great points that it's just not about like, even though it is important to collect the data on like headcount, job titles, and like those kind of just general things to get a better understanding of your workforce, it is important. But I think what we really do, and through the cyber talent matrix and cyber workforce intelligence, is that we really take it to the next level and look at the capability. And I think that's the thing, is that not just looking at, okay, this is the skills gaps and this is the certifications that you should do to, close those skills gaps. That is definitely a piece of it. But I think kind of to your latter point of looking at employee turn rates, looking at, understanding why people are leaving, how many people are leaving, is it coming from a particular team, and seeing if, people are getting burnt out. All of those additional details are a lot of that more qualitative kind of stuff than kind of testimonials, or if you can obviously capture like the actual numbers, that's important as well. But I think that that's a big piece, and something that we've been able to do is really provide organizations with multiple layers of data, being able to analyze those trends and to be able to say like, okay, actually, it just people were leaving that particular team because there was not an opportunity for growth. There was not an opportunity. They didn't know what could be next in this particular, team or department, or even thinking about making a lateral move to another team. I think a lot of those unclear career pathways is obviously something I'm really passionate about because I think, having that unclear direction is a big loophole a lot of the times on why somebody's like, oh, there's no opportunity for me here. I'm just going to go to the next company and then to the next company. And they keep just jumping around because maybe it is a salary thing, or maybe it's just not feeling that support and development. Um, I think too with cyber workforce intelligence, it's not just those who are working in the field at a particular company, or no matter what industry sector. We work with multiple organizations, but even those professional organizations as well, and being able to get an understanding of the talent that is of their membership. So you have so many different organizations out there that are supporting different groups of people and helping them with their career development and things like that. But how do they, as a professional organization, make sure that they're understanding who their members are to be able to better support them by providing training programming or providing career development opportunities, different things like that? That's something else that we do offer professional organizations that I've personally really enjoyed doing, because it helps them as well to help their members too.
Yeah, I think we saw some really good data, both from WeSys, right? Because we supported them in that, or Black Girls Hack as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Black Girls Hack and their gala coming up that you're talking about. For both those associations, I think what was rewarding, at least from kind of supporting them, by analyzing where their members kind of sit from a skill perspective
Mhm.
and add information back to those associations, then they've been able to programmatically put things in place to support those skill needs. And what
Yeah.
we, especially with the WeSys one, because we've been doing that a little longer,
Yeah.
uh, from last year to this year, the updated data shows that they've made gains in those areas that they've strategically put initiatives or training programs in place for, based on that first assessment, right? So that's a great story for us. So I love that when we kind of say, hey, there's an opportunity to improve gaps here, and they say, got it, let's see what we can do. They roll out some programs, and then we test
Mhm.
and measure again, and then lo and behold, improvements in the areas where they targeted treatments. And I think that's just amazing. So I love to do that work. I can't wait to share more and more of those results at
Oh, yeah.
you in Dallas. And what is that, a couple weeks that you're going out
Yeah,
there?
next month, yeah.
You
Cool.
know, the
Go ahead, Will. No, go.
Oh yeah, no, I was like, Sasha, don't stop, because you're like, oh, you're just speaking facts. What was it? I think a lot of the qualitative stuff gets put under the rug too sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like again, big thing that I spend a lot of my time is like, how do we quantify skill, right?
Mhm.
It's very, very subjective in a lot of ways. So it's like, how do we turn something like that into an objective thing? But then, especially one of the most fun parts is like, when it's like, hey, what certifications are you interested in and stuff like
Mhm.
that. You could even kind of look at the meta of it being like, well, which way is the market kind of going in terms of like just overall interest, right? Because again,
Yeah.
employers are going one way, right? They're
Mhm.
they're gonna they're gonna have their demands and things like that, and then there's gonna be that personal interest that people are gonna be into as well. And so like it's kind of seeing those two sides. I really enjoy, but
Absolutely. I think
yeah,
it no, and I think to that point too, that there are a lot of great organizations out there that do provide training for their employees, but it's just giving them like, here's a catalog of all of, these providers trainings, and then this one, and then this one. So now you have like 3 to 5 different catalogs, or, maybe an internal learning management system. All of these are great, but when you have so many options, it can be so overwhelming. And I think that
oh yeah,
directly, the employee perspective, that's probably I think one of the biggest reliefs, or like, the benefits of the work that we do, because like they want to grow, they want to develop their skills, but they don't even know where to begin. So being able to do an assessment or skills gap analysis, or different things that we do through this cyber talent matrix, and again, using the cyber workforce intelligence data, we're able to give them a sense of direction that, okay, these are the expectations of the certain skills of your particular job role and team that your organization has set for you. And this is how you perform. So this is the skills gap. And it gives them a set of a big list like this, a shortened list like this, for them to kind of being able to say, okay, these are the skills I need to focus on. And then we can help them by giving recommendations on, based on the courses in this catalog and this catalog and this catalog. This is where you can, focus your attention on. And I think just having that is such a big relief, instead of
oh
just
yeah.
having these overwhelming libraries and like, I know I'm supposed to be doing something, but I don't know even where to begin. So that's one of the other things that I think that this work really helps us do. And that's directly, at the employee level that we're able to hit. And obviously providing that information to leadership to help that trickle down. But I think that's definitely one of the big ones.
It's the interconnectedness. It's not just like of the internal teams, like we're highlighting the interconnectedness with your training vendors, right?
Yes.
And cataloging and getting a common nomenclature or taxonomy in place across courses, right? And it's not just
Mhm.
about courses, it's about the
Yeah,
content in the courses. So we need to go through and say, okay, you're using X, Y, or Z vendor. They have
sure.
these courses. Great. What does that map back to from a skills perspective? At what
Mhm.
level, right? Because this
Mhm.
is like foundational knowledge, or is this like expertise,
Yeah.
right? So
Specialty stuff,
we have
yeah.
to understand that first before we can, make those recommendations.
Mhm.
It is
Yeah.
complex,
Yeah.
which makes it fun for us, but also a huge challenge for anybody trying to manage these programs across any enterprise.
Mhm.
Yeah, what was it? Because for me, I'm also thinking about, we're in this thing, and I think we're still in it. I think we're still in it, but it's like the great detachment or the great stay, right? There was the great
Mhm.
resignation where everybody's like, I'm
Sure.
gone. But no, especially because, there is
The job
this,
market being what it is.
yeah, and it's like there's a lot of job insecurity, and so you got
Yeah.
all these people that are, basically hunkering down and trying to, they're burnt out, they're tired and stuff like that. And what has been found is that like upskilling and
Mhm.
learning and kind of, progression in that regard is what can help, like, kind of alleviate those burnout symptoms and stuff like that. Obviously it could come, back to workforce culture and or workplace culture and stuff like that as well. But there is a lot of credibility to, providing upskilling, right? But
Mhm.
it could be both a blessing and a curse, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Because like imagine you get assigned like, hey, on top of your work, you're gonna have to do 10 hours of this thing that you aren't really interested in, or you don't want to do, or it doesn't feel like it's progression, or it's redundant or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that can, even help improve the, I guess, again, going back to the qualitative stuff, that kind of health, right? The mental health of your workforce, right? That
Mhm.
kind of thing. So yeah, I find
Yeah.
that like, oh man, I'm
And
fired up.
before, about like return on investment, like at a leadership level, like if you're paying thousands of dollars for this training, you kind of want to know, like, is it having an impact? Are
Yeah,
people actually
Yeah.
learning? Are
yeah.
people actually doing anything with this? Are they engaging in it? And if so, how often? Like those are
Mhm.
also metrics that we're able to capture as well, especially when we do have the opportunity to partner with the training provider directly, and then being able to kind of use that as a, what's the return of investment here on your training budget? Because we always know that those are usually the first things to get cut when budgets are tight. So.
So speaking of upskilling and learning and training, I'd love to shift us to the last kind of segment of this show, which is This Week I Learned. I'll hand it over to you, Sasha, to go first. Share something you learned.
Yeah, so actually, I think it goes perfectly kind of what we were talking about. So I think that for me, I've been kind of reflecting on how professional development is more than just growing those technical skills, but upskilling and cross skilling. Even though that is important, I think it's really about investing in an employee's leadership, communication, and confidence building. And I've been fortunate to take part in several now women in cybersecurity programs. So like recently I did the Stage Ready fellowship, which was about like a public speaking. And I've also been doing the Create Your Leading Edge program. And then just this week I found out that I got accepted to be a mentor for their mentorship program. So that's
Congrats.
awesome. So yeah, so now I get to share kind of my knowledge and the different skills that I've been developing, but it's definitely been a little bit more of the soft skills, confidence building. But then I think just for me, it's just really nice about skillrex and like, you supporting my own professional development and how, important that is for every organization to do. It's not just about, oh, yeah, here's money to take the certification. Again, that's great and that's important too, but it's also talking about, okay, and we are just saying, planning conferences. I'm planning, my travel for next month as well for a conference and stuff, but making sure that you're giving your employees that those opportunities as well to develop their soft skills and to feel supported, to network, and not making it just so much about like, oh, go to this event to try and sell our services. I mean, obviously that's a part of the job as well, but making sure that it's about networking, about professional development, that career development piece. Um, I think is so important. And I know it's obviously easier said than done. Like we just said, budgets often make that challenging to do, but it can be in just, oh, job shadow, this leader, or if this is the role that you want at this level, like, why don't you spend some more time, with that particular person, doing informational interviews with people within the company, or giving that particular analyst an opportunity to do a presentation in front of leadership. Those different opportunities like that don't really cost anything because you're keeping it within your organization. I'm really passionate about that. I think that's really important to do. And then obviously to get involved in organizations and, we're proud to be strategic partners of WESIS. And that's just one of the organizations that, we are able to support, but then I'm able to even benefit from as an individual, as a member. So that's something that's been on my mind this week.
I've noticed your confidence like significantly jump over this past year. So I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love your
More
journey.
speaking engagements, it helps.
Yeah. Awesome. And Will, what do you got for us?
And I've been like, do you guys know that one meme of the guy who's like right up against the like bulletin board with like all the red lines and he's like, right, like, that kind of thing. It's like, and he's like holding his, yeah. So I've been kind
At
of
you every day.
well, it is,
Me.
it is.
It sounds like you.
Yeah. I'm kind of, well, so a lot of this stuff, there's this big talk of like ROI and stuff,
Mhm.
right? And that goes into, just anything when it even comes into like software development and stuff like that, which again, as like a big coder, as, a big, my niche and stuff, I was kind of looking into AI's effect on security, right? And because obviously it's an emerging area and everybody's like talked to death about AI and stuff, but it is absolutely freaking me out because I was looking into like a whole bunch of statistics and numbers about it, right? And so basically we're seeing, right, like obviously we're seeing across the board that people are feeling their cybersecurity, organizations and stuff are being like not, they're not meeting budget like constraints and stuff like that. It's just really tough, right? There's like low budget and stuff like that. And there's a new problem that's kind of being introduced with AI especially in the development space. So essentially, like, do you guys know what vibe coding is? It's like a big thing, but it's like, so basically there's the co-founder of OpenAI. His name's like Andrej Karpathy, something like that.
Mhm.
He basically said this. He was like, there's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you
Okay.
fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials and forget that code even exists, right? It's basically you just type in something on on like ChatGPT or something, and it spits out code.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just like copy and paste it into their IDE or whatever dev environment they have, and they're like, "Yep, there it is." Right? Well, so it turns out, right? There was I believe Veracode did a study where they found 45% of AI generated code contains security vulnerabilities. How they did that was they tested 100 of the leading AI models that are for coding tasks. And they found that, for like basically flip a coin and there's probably a security vulnerability in them. And they're all very much like, in the OWASP top 10, like, so cryptographic failures and injection attacks being big ones, right? And in some cases, they were able to literally go and be like, hey, why is this insecure? And they're like, well, you could do, you know, X injection attack, right? Or something on this. And it's like, you just helped me develop that. Do you see the wrongness in it? And it won't change, right? It's just, again, there's these, like, it's usually doing with more average training data, right? They're just not as robust. But again, so this kind of leads into a lot of different security sort of issues pertaining to the kind of dev workforce sort of deal. So again, like we're finding that in Stack Overflow's like 2025 developer survey, they were like 80% of developers in the survey are using AI in their programming, right? So now all of a sudden, I'm just wondering, like, in this workforce, are we going to see, like these kind of more auditing, like, hey, we need people to just go back in the code and like make sure, right? Because that stuff costs money, right? That stuff
Mhm.
is going to be really, really tough and straining on the budget. And so a lot of that stuff is very like I was kind of looking into that, especially, and I promise I'm done, or I'm almost done. But
Tomorrow, I'm sure.
oh yeah. Well, so but it's very much like so technical debt is very much that, right? It's the
Mm.
cost that is accrued when you take the expedient solution, right? And so they were talking about, I believe it was this Accenture study. They said that it costs about 2.4 trillion each year, the technical debt, right? And that's basically in terms of money going into efforts to revise code, to revise documentation, to like fix things because things simply got deprecated or whatever, right? And it would cost about like to stem that bleeding about 1.5 trillion to fix, right? And so this is a real big problem. And so part of me, like as we go into these more, we do this competency skill work and stuff, and there's these emerging skills that are coming up, right? Especially everybody likes to just lump in AI security into one thing, but what is AI security? It could be, going against prompt engineering attacks, or it could be, looking at code that was made by AI and, so, and making sure that is secure. And so stuff like that, I just find really odd and kind of like interesting to think about, especially
Sure.
because a lot of this technical debt is expected to rise and skyrocket as like something like 52% of organizations are planning to allocate way more to keep up with the Joneses, right? Because I mean, AI could speed everything up, but it's like, you're giving a student driver a race car, right? Where it's like they don't know how to handle this. This could go off the rails real quick. So,
Sure.
um, I promise I'm done now. That was kind of the big thing. I was like, this hurts my head. I'm like, oh my God. So
It's a good
yeah.
segue into my week's this week I learned, and that
Mhm.
was so Hack the Box put out a report recently. It's 2025 Global Cyber Skills Benchmark, and they highlighted because they tested a number of different teams through capture the flag activities, and they were benchmarking those skills. And one of the findings that they had in that report was that the top performers, key skills for top performers included secure coding. So those people who could actually do secure coding, forensics, cloud security, and web security. So those four foundational things, which I think is really interesting because we're seeing, especially on the cloud side, that skill still dominating as a skill need area. Our friend colleague Will Markow over at 41 Insights did some market intelligence for us and one of our clients recently, and that highlighted cloud is still kind of king on skill needs. We're seeing that in the Hack the Box data. You mentioned it earlier, Will, with
Yeah.
ISC2, and we're also seeing that as discrete data points across some of our skill assessments that we're using for organizations too. So
Mhm.
while AI is still continued to be buzz for skill needs, and it is generative
Yeah.
AI forms is an important skill to learn. We can't lose sight of cloud as we continue to think about what skills do cyber professionals need kind of for the future. So that's my week.
Yeah,
For
yeah, and that's a very interesting point because also I think it was in the same ISC2 study. They were talking about I think it was something like 18% of junior analysts or junior cybersecurity personnel are actually getting active hands-on experience with cloud security, right?
Hmm.
Or it being in the cloud and actually working on it as a practice.
Hmm.
While we're seeing I think it was like a 46% increase in demand for it or something like that. It was, yeah. And so that kind of thing is very interesting where it's like, they're also, we may not be giving them adequate experience, right? Obviously people are probably looking for more senior stuff as well, right? But at least in the junior space, it's like, how are we providing those opportunities for them to learn, right? And obviously you could do like simulations and stuff like that. But also people say, practical experience is the best, right? So I don't know. I find that very, very interesting too.
Yeah.
I will put a bow on this. I appreciate the conversation today, and for anybody who's watching or now during live stream or afterwards, if you have any comments or feedback for the show, let me know. This episode really was more focused on getting to know us and kind of where our passion is, and a little bit about this concept of cyber talent, the cyber talent matrix, and cyber workforce intelligence. So, future episodes will dive deeper into specific topics, but I think next time we're going to dive maybe into cyber workforce and skill frameworks and
Yeah.
taxonomy for those taxonomy nerds like us who want to talk about NIST, NICE, or DCWF or Sophia. So we'll explore what they are, why they matter, how you can apply them in your own cyber workforce strategy. But in the meantime, let's stay connected. Follow me, Will, Sasha on LinkedIn for
Yeah.
insights, updates. I think I actually might have a little slide here where I have our socials.
Right.
And then, yeah, if you don't mind following the skillrex company page on LinkedIn for insights and updates, we appreciate that. And make sure you subscribe to this show, Cyber Talent Matrix, live on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. And just a little plug for us, if your organization is working on its cyber workforce strategy, don't be shy about reaching out to us at skillrex. We do love to help, whether it turns into work or not. We're happy to share our insights with you and talk through some stuff. So until next time, thanks for listening. Keep investing in your people. They're the real key to cyber resilience. So take care, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye, guys.